You sure this is your first time playing poker, Chelsea?
Absolutely. Next hand. Albuquerque Hold'em, aces high, nothing wild. Wild cards are for preschoolers.
Hello, everypony, bronies and pegasisters of all ages. I am the Nate Damn Z, and welcome to the latest episode of Like a Ditzy Do, a video blog series about the My Little Pony collectible card game. It's the holiday season, which means the year is coming to a close. Not only is 2015 coming to a close already, but this little game of ours is 2 years old now, and it has only gotten better. Now, to me, the game feels like it really hit its stride with Absolute Discord, which is probably why Enterplay decided to introduce the idea of blocks. Now, as I stated at the start of this silly little YouTube show, I've been out of the CCG scene for quite a few years. So, the concept of blocks, accepted by almost everyone almost immediately as par for the course, was completely foreign to me. That said, now that I understand it, I think it's a really good idea. See, a block in CCG terms is a group of sets, as far as I know, based on the order of release. For the obvious example, the first 4 sets of the MLP CCG are now known as the Premier Block, and the Odyssey Block will contain sets 5 through 8. And from what I can tell, this is mostly used so tournaments can use what is known as a block format. Say, for example, when I go to visit my family this holiday season, the local game store holds a My Little Pony tournament, and they specify the Odyssey block. What that means is, as of right now, my deck can only contain cards from 2 sets. No Rainbow Dashed Winged Wonder, no Queen Chrysalis or King Sombra troublemakers, and no Mod Pie Destroyer of Worlds. That, I think, is the most important thing to note about this. Blocks only contain Premier and or the expansion sets. If it has less than 200 cards and no theme decks, cards from it are not allowed at the table with the format. And that's the first part of why I think this is a good idea. Like I said in my last episode, Nod and DJ have sort of taken over the top spots, and from what I understand, are still a pain to deal with. This allows Enterplay to ban them without technically banning them. Banning cards really seems to be a touchy subject in this game. Enterplay has gone on record saying they're reluctant to do so because they don't want someone going through the trouble of searching the wide, wide world of Equestria, paying a ton of bits, only to find out the card or cards they have been seeking are now unplayable. That said, it eventually had to happen. People demanded for it to happen, and whenever it happens, people complain. Now, what specific cards are banned is one of the reasons I really respect Enterplay. They only banned cards that ruined people's fun. Like, say, hypothetically, there was a combination of cards that, when used properly together, made it possible to win in one turn. That sounds pretty horrible, right? So now those cards are simply taken out of the equation. And all of those cards were common, uncommon, or rare. So, despite how folks continue to wail and gnash their teeth about how a certain rarity card is truly, truly outrageous, apparently she doesn't ruin anyone's fun. Of course, if a tournament is Harmony format, that means everything is allowed, except for the aforementioned banned cards. Rainbow Shine will murder us all! Now, the other reason I like it is that I imagine as more and more sets come out and more blocks are formed, Premier Block will probably be slowly phased out of official play. Because, let's be honest here, when compared to Absolute Discord and Onward, Premier and Camelot Knights aren't that great. Now, I hesitate to call the first version of anything really, bad, because it has to set the foundation on which to build. But looking back, it's obvious the game was going through its growing pains. There was tons of confusing and awkward language, and cards that seemed awesome at the time, but once people started figuring the game out, they realized that those cards were kind of not awesome. Equestrian Odysseys almost seems like a soft reset of the game. The cards have a redesigned look, and it's the first set since Camelot Knights to give us mains of all 6 of the main 6 all at once. And all of them use new keywords. Speaking of keywords, Studious, Random, and Inspired were all retired. Part of me feels kinda sad about that, but even I admit Random wasn't that good. Speaking of keywords, a lot of the new ones just gave official names to really common abilities. The new main 6 mains are also a vast improvement over their previous incarnations. I've even heard talk about how Princess Twilight Sparkle might actually be a threat to mod. Equestrian Odysseys also introduced the idea of super rares, and aside from the odd promo card, parallel foils are no longer a thing. I have very mixed feelings about that, honestly. So, yeah, when you consider all of that, and the fact that as the game continues, more and more and more cards are going to come out, it almost makes sense to just let Premier Block eventually settle into retirement. But it's okay. Our game is all grown up and can walk on its own. However, once again, please bear in mind I don't actually have any insight into the inner workings of Interplay. They may have no intention of ever officially retiring anything. And once again, proving their awesomeness, they've said stores are welcome to do their own thing if they think their players will enjoy that more. Just don't, expect to qualify for official championships that way. Heck, now that I mention it, I don't think they've done much of anything with the separate blocks yet. But that could be because the Odyssey block only has 2 sets to its name right now. Well, in any case, I think that about covers it for my initial thoughts on the ideas of blocks and different formats of play. Do you folks have anything to add? Do you think that separating the game into blocks is a great idea or overly complicated? Should Fluttershy be rehired as a guidance counselor? Do you think there will be anything in sets 7 and 8 to make the first 4 even more obsolete? Until next time, I am the Nate Damsey, and I think I'm going to get my want-need list ready for my annual holiday game store crawl. Like a Ditzy do. And just let me add, happy hearts warming, every pony. It's the first set since Camelot Knights to give us mains of all 6 of the main 6 all at once. Holy shit, one try.